Okay, this video is, does powerlifting shorten life? And where is this coming from? Well, first of all, look at the windkessel effect. That's like the thing that you pump, looks like a little accordion, triangular shape to blow air on a fire to get the kindling to start. And it's the term used for the ascending thoracic aorta, whereby when the heart contracts, that's systole, it stretches outward, and then during diastole, relaxation of the left ventricle, elastic fibers in the wall of the ascending thoracic aorta, they push inward, elastic recoil, and that generates diastolic flow. Systole means contraction in Greek, diastole means relaxation in Greek. Okay, so the point of this is that good elastic fibers in the ascending thoracic aorta generate good diastolic flow. You want good diastolic flow because the left ventricle of the heart fills during cardiac relaxation, during diastole, because when it's contracted in systole, if there's too much pressure in the muscle of the left ventricle, you can't perfuse it adequately. Okay, so you want that good diastolic flow. Normal blood pressure is something like 110/70. The difference between the high number, the systolic number, and the low number, the diastolic number, is called the pulse pressure. Okay, when somebody's hypertensive, they might have a pressure, let's say 200/100, so their pulse pressure would be 100. This normal pressure here of 110/70 would have a pulse pressure of 40. That's just 110 minus 70. So that's a good pulse pressure. That's a bad high pulse pressure. The higher the blood pressure, the more likely they're going to develop atherosclerosis over time. High cholesterol and hypertension are the two main risk factors for atherosclerosis. Okay, so what's the point of this? A typical American has worn out their elastic fibers at a young age. You know, they'll have progressively wear them out. You can't replace them after 20 years of age when you're a mature adult. So they'll start wearing them out. And once they've lost all these elastic fibers, they'll have relatively poor diastolic flow. And they'll have to compensate by generating more systolic flow. Okay, so what's the point of this? The point is that hypertension, chronic hypertension, will stretch these elastic fibers and cause them to overstretch and weaken. And I worry about heavy weightlifting potentially accelerating that process. And I'll show you the slides that got me thinking about this and concerned about this. Blood pressure changes during heavy resistance exercises. So they found that when people were doing heavy exercise, especially squats, their blood pressure would go as high as 345 systolic over 245 diastolic. So that's 345 over 245, rather high. And squatting was the one that caused the biggest jump. And squatting is kind of fun to do. You got a big heavy weight on your back, and you get gains in muscle mass faster with squatting than anything else. So it's kind of fun to see yourself get strong fast. Here's another paper, aortic valve thickening associated with power training. Is it because of pressure overload? Now for the abstract on PubMed, they only show you this, that you get aortic valve thickening due to intermittent hypertensive episodes from weightlifting. I was able to get the more of the article at other research library, but anyways, here's what it came down. This is just a case report of two young, healthy professional bodybuilders. An echocardiogram, ultrasound of the heart, showed calcified thickening of the aortic valves. And it was a normal aortic valve, trileaflet, 3-part, unlike the congenital bicuspid aortic valve. And these same patients had hypertrophy of the wall of the left ventricle, LVH, and of the interventricular septum, IVSH. Okay, and this was associated with thick aortic valves. And things that are associated with thickened aortic valves include high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes. And the researchers thought the thickened valves might be due to severe hypertension during maximal weightlifting. They found that the blood pressure would go as high as 480/350. Now these are big, strong bodybuilders, like they weigh like 290 pounds. These are giant guys. But that's a very high pressure, okay? So the question is that really high pressure accelerating the loss of elastic fibers in the ascending thoracic aorta? I wonder about that. Now, this is not for sure, and I do think it's good to lift weights, and I do think it's good to exercise, but I wonder if maybe it's not such a good idea to do heavy squats, okay, especially as you get older. When you're a young guy training for a big competition, if it fits for your sport, maybe that's reasonable, okay? But as you get older, why mess with anything that could worsen hypertension? So here's another paper. This is in a Journal of Urology, written in 2016, so that's a long time ago, about 10 years ago. The mortality was higher in professional bodybuilders. The professional bodybuilders, they're often supplementing with high-dose testosterone, other performance-enhancing drugs like creatine, protein powders, etc. They had a pretty big sample size, 1,578 of them. And what they found was that they had a 34% increased death rate. That's a big increased death rate. And the average age these guys died at was 48 years of age. But again, they didn't follow all of them all the way out, so their average age of death doesn't mean that all bodybuilders die that young. And these were professional male bodybuilders, all professional male bodybuilders. And there's other risk factors besides performance-enhancing drugs and the weightlifting itself. There's the risk factor that they tend to eat high-fat, high-animal protein diets. And I wonder about the windkessel effect in them. But still, a 34% increased death rate with the average guy dying at 48 years of age. That means a lot of them died at a very young age. I've seen bodybuilder guys in kidney failure end up on dialysis from all those protein powders being contaminated with heavy metals. They'll often put heavy metals in them to make them weigh more so they can sell them for more money. Okay, but I still wonder about this. So my idea of the ascending thoracic aorta windkessel effect being damaged by these very high pressures during heavy powerlifting, that's just a theory. I don't know if it's true, but it logically seems like it might be. So I still lift weights, but I don't do squatting anymore, and I don't do bench press anymore. I haven't done bench press for many, many years because I had a shoulder problem. But I used to squat up until I got divorced because in my old place, I had a good place to squat. Now I don't anymore. But anyways, I thought that was interesting. And, there's things you do when you go for blood pressure. You want to make sure your feet are flat on the floor, you're seated comfortably, make them check it at least twice, if not 3 times. Try not to talk right before they check it, because if you're talking right before they check it, the pressure goes up. Make sure the cuff fits correctly. If the cuff is too tight, that could distort your blood pressure. Anyways, I hope you found this helpful.